Hey, welcome back. It's Saturday. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. Here with my good friend Dewey Freeman. Dewey, how you doing, buddy?
I am doing exceptionally well. How about yourself?
I'm gonna put a exclamation point on that sentence.
Sweet.
I judge it by where am I at around dinner time on Friday night. Did I reach my goals that I set for myself? Do I feel like I'm going into the weekend uh, having lightened my load, or am I going into the weekend feeling burdened? And this weekend, I feel like I just kind of nailed all the things I needed to nail. Um, there's always stuff on the to do list, but do you have the burdensome things that you're like, oh, thank God the weekend's here and I can spend the whole weekend, lightening my load instead of kind of freeing yourself to relax and rejuvenate and recharge a bit. So I'm looking forward to recharging.
Sounds wonderful.
So this week, there was, as our listener knows, there'll be a word that comes up and I write down, and that becomes the seed for the next show. And the word I wrote down was fluid,
Mm.
and fluid made me think of early in my relationship, my current relationship, how I was very fixed and now I'm very fluid. And it got me thinking about what an important phase shift that was in my life. Um, Fixed meaning we're all set. We're going to go to the restaurant. This is the evening. It's all planned,
Mm.
very goal
Like
oriented, very
a
male.
rigidity kind of
Yeah,
piece.
absolutely. Yeah. And then I get I don't feel like going out. Oh no, it's all planned. Yeah, not feeling it. Right tension. It's like, oh, it's all, man, it does, what I've learned, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Then none of that matters. And my whole life till I was, 50 was planned. I'm a chef, I'm a guy
Mm.
around computers. I'm a boom, boom. If this, then that. If this, then that. And um, that's not how it is anymore. And which led to the improv, which led to the fluidity, which led to, so that's how my brain works, goes from dink, 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 dink. And I thought we might talk about that today because which led me to the final word, which is the true word that I want to talk about, which is velocity. And how do we
Ah,
achieve velocity in our life? And I'm convinced, at least right now, that the way we reach velocity is by removing friction. And that's what I really want to talk about. How do we look at our lives and look at the friction and how that's keeping us from achieving the velocity we need to really do the things we want to do? And with that premise, Doctor, I'm going to throw the ball to you.
well, actually, thank you and good morning. Um, when you, so my mind is going, you just sort of blew my brain up in a very fluid, non friction way. Um, when you are thinking of friction, are you looking at friction that we create for ourselves? Are you looking at friction that we run into that's outside of us? What are you thinking with that? What comes up for you with that?
All of it. So there's the it's funny. We talked about the stories we tell ourselves, the stories we tell others, and the stories that are told to us. Replace the word story with friction. So
Got
the
it.
friction we create, the friction that's created for us, and the friction that is just around. And in my, during the week when I'm working,
Mm.
I'm trying to, I'm looking at processes and businesses and organizations and ideas, and I'm looking to identify friction and how do I remove it. It might be that you've got a really hard way to get in touch on your website. It's really hard for people to get in touch with you. You've introduced friction that you didn't need, or
Got it.
there's some process that's, or the way you react creates friction, and you don't need that friction. If you didn't react that way, you would not have the friction. You would have a smooth glide. So I the more I've been thinking about it, I think it's interwoven everywhere.
Hmm.
And I think it's the being aware of it and seeing it allows you to remove it, or at least mitigate it.
Well, what's interesting about it, I'll just share what is like coming to mind as you're speaking, is that one of the biggest ways we create friction is not to be present.
Okay. Yeah.
One of the biggest ways we create friction is to go, well, yesterday, Mark, you said,
Mm.
and I'm still yesterday with you, even though yesterday is gone. Um, the Another way that we can do that is go, well, tomorrow, if we just get this, then tomorrow, and the practice of fully living in the present with virtually everything, and with everything and in every way we can is, I mean, that's what lessens friction. And I actually have a bit of a story with that. If
I'd love to hear it.
so, as you know, I live on the side of the mountain. My horses are, they're about, I don't know, 120 yards from me, going up 2 drives with the switchback. And in the winter, we get huge amount of snows at times. There was this last winter, there were 2 times we got snows big enough that it literally took 20 to 30 minutes to get up to the horses walking. In going up to there, I mean, we're trudging through the snow. We even have snowshoes on. I mean, it's heavy duty. And one thing I could do is go, damn snow, this is too much. Why does it snow this much? The universe is after me. The other piece, and this is actually what I dropped into in going up. I mean, because we're also at 7,500 feet. So it's like going through 3 to 4 feet of snow uphill at altitude, you're literally going,
Mm.
I mean, it is not an easy task. And so I can go up, and with each step, I literally said to myself, this is what I'm doing now.
Mm.
Step.
Mm.
This is what I'm doing now. Step. This is what I'm doing now. Step. The snow's here now. Step. And then it became fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and uh, and there was no friction to it. I mean, the velocity was actually sort of slow. I mean, I probably
But
was
you had
going,
forward momentum.
I have total forward momentum.
Yeah.
By the time I got partway up, my horses were pushing through the snow to come and meet me. Or I could have gone, God damn it, fucking snow again. How am I going to get up there? I just plowed a week ago. All of that stuff. The biggest issue I run into with people and working with the people that I work with, whether it's a relational process, whether it's a process of dealing with trauma, is can and people and are people willing to live in the present and virtually the here and now, like right now. So,
Are they willing? Willing's a great word. It's hard. And we talked about it last week.
oh yeah,
It's hard. Um, but it's so gratifying. To your point, you made it to, you changed your whole state in going up the side of the mountain, right?
right.
That what is when someone said to me once, the only two things I can control in life is my own state
Hmm.
and the blueprint, like the path I want to take. I mean, I'm
Right,
the one who chooses that. Everything else up to the gods.
right.
Right? And when we manage our own state, we have a lovely byproduct of that is it affects, well, just the fact is it affects the state of others. And if you can stay in a positive state, you have a choice. Again, that's the thing you control. Hey, I'm in a great mood. People like being around you. It's like you're the
Mm.
happy guy, or you're the whatever guy. You're the guy who's always, kind of turned on. It doesn't matter what's happening. Now, I don't know, that's optimist, pessimist. I think it's just a choice of knowing that that interaction is going to be so much better if I start it with a smile instead of a, oh, fuck, man, I wanted to go up the side of the mountain and all
Just
that.
knowing,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, all that.
Well, the other thing that you said, which really struck me, is we have our choice of state and we have our blueprint. The rest is up to the gods. The gods are not against us or for us. They just are.
Yeah.
Like when 3 feet of snow or 4 feet of snow falls, nobody up there was going,
I'm going to fuck with Dewey.
I'm going to fuck with Dewey. I'm only going to make 3 feet of snow come down on his side of the mountain. The rest of the world is going to be like paradise, blah, blah, blah. That's not what happens. And our projection onto, and I'm using this very loosely, the gods. I'm not putting down nothing negative toward religion, spirituality, nothing like that. So
Yeah, yeah.
please know
Okay.
that.
Hold your cards and letters, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. It's like nobody up there went, yeah, I'm going to dump an extra foot or two on Dewey. Or I'm going to dump so much snow that my horse gets an abscess on his foot. That's not what's happening. Things do happen that we have to work with and deal with. Nobody, like nature, maybe I'll use that word. Nature is not judgmental. Nature just is.
Yeah. Let's think about friction in relationships and the kind of friction we happen to be recording on Father's Day weekend and thinking
Mhm.
about family relationships and the kind of the friction there is in families. What's what's been your experience of a way that you help counsel people around reducing friction, specifically in relationships? And now we've already said being present is part of it, but what's another practical thing that you suggest to them that creates an aha moment?
One is knowing that virtually every relationship changes moment to moment.
Mm.
In fact, I'll throw in, you and I were chatting a little bit before we went live about our relationship. When we first met, it was like, oh yeah, this would be a really cool person to meet. The idea of our relationship turning into what it has turned into, to me, is one miraculous, wonderful, exciting, honoring. We don't know what's really going to happen. So that's one part. The other part, and I have talked about this previously, is the concept of creating an opening for another being to step into.
Hmm.
Um, what we're doing when we create that opening energetically, and sometimes even physically, is we're removing the friction. We're allowing movement without friction.
Which implies that there's an awareness that we've actually created that opening,
Absolutely.
which is probably not true for most folks. That was a sweeping generalization, Doc, but I'm kind of gonna guess I'm probably not far wrong.
I'm kind of going to guess that you're probably pretty right. Well, we don't we don't allow ourselves to learn, and we don't teach about creating openings.
Well, there's two different things there, right? Two sides, the teaching and the learning. We don't allow ourselves to learn and we don't know how to teach. How? Let's start with the first one. Who? Because I'm not that good. That is as foreign. You could be speaking Greek to me. Someone who they don't allow themselves to learn. How is that possible?
You mean what causes the lack of learning or the
No,
not
the
allowing?
allowing. I'm a lifelong learner. So I mean that's so woven into my DNA. I'm learning all the time, and
Every second,
and
yes.
I'm reflecting on that learning. I'm the see one, do one, teach one guy, right? It's
Right, right, right,
right.
right.
I'm constantly doing that, like all the time. So to you've just introduced this idea that there's a human out there who's not allowing themselves to learn. What?
Okay, this is a bit of a roundabout way to respond. When you see one, do one, teach one, how vulnerable are you?
1,000%.
Exactly. The opposite, and this could probably be argued, so I'll let it be argued at some point. The opposite of vulnerability is protection.
Oh, so if we use this metaphor a lot, if my shields are up, I'm protected, right?
Yes,
Learning can't get in. It's not that I'm
exactly.
disallowing it; I'm disallowing everything. As a matter of
Well, that's
fact,
true. That's true.
if shields are up, nothing's getting through.
Right. When the shields are up, nothing's getting through it. Sort of like if there's a dam and there's a gigantic lake,
Yeah,
and there's a door in the dam that opens. Whatever's right there is what's going to come through. We're not going to get to pick what's on the backside of the lake to come through first. Whatever's there is going to come through. Um, so the lack of allowing is the process of protecting. And the truth is that there are a lot of people in the world that have had experiences where they need to protect themselves. And
there. Okay, so we talked about this when we were talking about samurai and going to bed in your armor, and sometimes you have to wear your armor. I think there's a difference between protecting and disallowing.
okay, say a little bit more.
Well, so if I'm protecting myself, then I'm wary for righteous reasons, right? I'm
Hmm.
protecting myself, right? As opposed to I'm creating a barrier for new things to come in. So I'm carrying a barrier, not because I'm worried about slings and arrows. It's because I don't like new ideas are going to challenge me, new things are going to challenge me, and I can't cope with that new learning. I don't want to hear any of that. I'm really happy, so I'm a protectionist in that regard. So there's the good, the positive side of protecting, smart, and then the negative side of protecting, which is the mm, no, I I don't want to take in anything new because it's going to upset the balance of power in my brain, upset my status quo.
I've not thought about this in this way before, so
I love it when you say that. This is the fun part of Saturdays. With 80,000 hours of therapy is to throw a curveball at Mr.
to
Dewey
throw
Freeman
something
is,
at me.
boy, to catch that one on tape, kids.
Well, you just got it on tape. Here's what literally flew through my mind. And talking about velocity, that came in very fast. Protecting in the way that we're talking about is a very present moment process that we're making a choice about. It's like, oh, with this guy, Mark, I really don't have to protect. There might be somebody later today where, I probably should protect myself. The allowing in that level of rigidity that you were talking about, for me, is bringing in the past. And it's like, well, I talked to a man 10 years ago that yelled at me when X, Y, and Z happened, so I'm just not going to go there again. And what my sense is the allowing part that you're talking about, which I think you're accurate, and that we can go there, is that's the part that's about unfinished business in the past that we're not allowing ourselves to look at, and that we're literally bringing into the present as if it's there. And sometimes it is in the present because we carry it, and we haven't been able to resolve it on some level. Or
our frequent listeners know that you're talking about attachment right now.
I'm talking about attachment, and I'm also talking about trauma, and trauma does take us back to attachment. But there's two parts of that. There is a conscious awareness part of that, where we can begin to make some choices. There's another part of that is connected into what's called our neuroceptive nervous system, the neuroceptive part of our nervous system that bypasses our brain. It's actually a part of our nervous system that checks out fight, flight, freeze, checks out danger. And that part of our nervous system actually bypasses our brain, and that's not a choice. The way to bring that into choice is through awareness, and the way to bring that into choice is through having different experiences. And we can bring that into consciousness and choice. And I don't use the word unconscious, I use the word subconscious.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's a conscious process of allowing ourselves to become aware of what we're holding. And so another way to put it is, one is present day protection, the other is protecting from an unfinished business kind of place, and that's the lack of allowing. It's almost like we're not even allowing to protect ourselves. I didn't say that very well.
That was meta.
We're not allowing ourselves to protect ourselves because there's no choice. We're not allowing anything.
Reminiscent of the unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious unconscious
Absolutely.
competence. So it's unconsciously we're competent, we're aware of that thing that's happening.
And there's a part where, like, I will work with people and I will say, just be aware of what's happening in your body. And they go, what do you mean?
I'm with you, Doc.
and it's like, oh, so at that point, instead of working on whatever someone's presenting, it's like, well, let's help you start becoming aware of your own, of who you are. And who you are, what turns you on, what do you work with, how's energy moving through your body. And that the protection piece, I'm wrapping this back around, is to me is there's energy in that.
Yeah.
The not allowing piece, there's a deadness in that. There's a shutdown in that. Because I'm not going to allow anything. I'm not going to make a choice. I'm not going to let anything in. So the work with that then becomes working with your own energetic process.
I'm gonna let that one sit for a second. I want to get back to the idea. When I say velocity, what do you think of? Just that word. What does it mean to you?
First thing is speed. It's like,
so one of the things I wonder is when we're going too fast. We're kind of we're on such a mission that we're not. It's funny. This whole show comes down to like 3 themes, you guys. And we keep bumping into those. But like you've so effectively removed the friction that you're just, and you find your natural speed and you're just going. And if you're being really present and aware, then you're having a full enjoyment, a full appreciation of that. And you just happen to be going fast. I wonder if when we're going fast, we miss stuff. I am guilty of that. I move too fast most of the time and I miss stuff. And I think I'm being present. I'm still missing stuff.
well, my guess is that you are being present. You're just being present in a different way. One of the things that's been interesting to me over the years is the realization that our senses have a top end speed.
Oh, so and you mean the 5 senses?
Starting with those.
Or sensibility.
No, the 5 senses. And for instance, if I see something that's scary to me, and this is on a human level, my reaction time will be about the way humans are set up. Our reaction times are about a half a second. That's approximate. A horse's, for instance, reaction time is a 1/10 of a second.
Wow.
So a horse's reaction time is 5 times faster than ours, even though a half a second seems pretty quick. That's part of why a horse will react and jump sideways 6 feet at something that's scary, and you're going, I didn't see it coming. I don't even know what they saw. Whatever they saw is probably gone, and I'm glad I didn't fall off. I do think, and the reason I'm saying this is because each of us have a limit to the speed at which we can take in information.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Well, if I hear something outside and I go like that, there's a limit to how fast I can go. What I'm thinking about is if you're talking about, you're on, quote, maybe a mission, and it's like, okay, I'm going to get this done. I'm going to get this done. It's like when we're going through something so fast, we can only pick up so much. It's almost, if you think about it, say you're in a car, you're going down the road at 80 miles an hour. Visually, we can only pick up so much. What was that? And
So is that an argument to slow down?
I think it's an argument to make a choice. Sometimes it's appropriate to go 80 miles an hour. Just know that that's what's happening.
Oh, yeah. Okay. What got me thinking there was, as an improver, this is where you can hone your being present muscle.
Exactly.
And what happens is somebody says something, and then you hear that, and what we're taught is to not think.
Exactly.
Like it responds on ideally it affects your subconscious, and you react subconsciously, and you had no idea what you were going to say, and you said a thing, and it was the exact right thing to say. And if you're in a flow state with that other person, all that happens, and you have to record it because you'll not remember it at all.
Exactly.
And that is 100% antithetical to how we live our lives. I think as improvers, we work on that really hard. And and our coach is constantly, hey guys, you're up in your head. You guys are thinking, get out of your head. Stop thinking. He says, I can see you thinking. I could see you stop thinking. And when someone says something to us, we're going to process it. It's going to maybe push some buttons from the past. We're going to be thinking about stuff. We're going to think, oh, that makes me think of this, makes me think of this. Meanwhile, I have missed the last 3 sentences you've said, sir.
Thank you very much. Talk about velocity. What comes to this is interesting because that's exactly what just happened to me, what you just described. The word that came inside me when you were talking was art. Then I started thinking about it and went, should I say, that routine? It's like, yeah, you're talking about art. When you're not thinking, when you're coming from your soul, when you're coming from inside you, that's art. Whether it's improv, whether it's a piece I'm doing with the horses, whether it's a stroke I take in a painting I'm doing, whether it's a flash of an idea. I mean, what's interesting is that most of therapeutically what I do is I don't think about it. I never walk into a therapy session with a plan, which everyone's taught to have that.
Exactly. And improv, someone's way smarter than me said, prepare, don't plan.
I was with in the men's group that we were working with a couple of weeks ago. It was like we were preparing, and then our slogan was like, we're going to prepare and plan, and then real life is going to happen. And it's like, let's go with real life. And so, but that place, I think, that we come from, when we come from inside, whether it's relationally, whether it's telling our partners that we love them, whether it's being with our children, when that comes from the inside, there's an art to that.
You opened up a whole wonderful connection for me just then. Stephen Pressfield, who wrote the War of Art, and then which is a book everybody should read at least twice a year. And then one of his follow-on books is The Artist's Journey, which picks up where the hero's journey leaves off. And it talks about the artist's journey is connecting to that spot you just said. And that when you get that muscle, really exercised. You can go there at will. You can go there 10,000 times a day. And as an artist, as someone who creates, and art in this sense is that deep tapping into the subconscious and being able to know when to open it up, which brings me to a theme that we have. It's I think one of our three themes, which is creating an opening. And I'm going to say that in this exact example, it's we create an opening in ourselves, to
Exactly.
ourselves.
Exactly.
And it's at that point where we're not thinking. And there's part of the rational brain says, what do you mean you're not thinking? IBM had the big sign that said think. My partner holds that sign up on Zoom, says think. And I said, no, don't think. It's like, dude, how can you not? It's just because guess what? My subconscious is 50,000 times faster and smarter than I am consciously. And if I can open up to that, which is really hard, but when you can, that's where all the good stuff is. I mean, it's a personal belief. What do you think? Is that where all the good stuff is?
Yes. And what just hit me while you were talking is the concept of outside velocity versus inside velocity.
Hmm.
And what you're talking about, at least what I'm thinking you're talking about, is outside velocity. Yeah, we may be going 80 miles an hour down the road in a car, for instance. I may be flying through the woods on a horse. Inside, I'm not.
Hmm.
Inside,
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
incredibly aware. I'm incredibly, it's almost like a slow motion
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
of connection and contact. And that's the creation of the opening inside me.
Grandmaster suggests that as we go up in rank as black belts, we're chasing stillness.
Exactly. And yeah. And your hands, your feet, your movement may be incredibly fast if you watch somebody who's a very high level martial artist, but their insides are like
Still.
calm,
Yeah.
still. And so there's two levels of velocity, perhaps.
I think
One,
we've achieved the bookend for the show
yeah,
to suggest that the life pursuit of removing friction so we can go faster is all in serving the purpose of us achieving stillness.
exactly.
Wow.
That's pretty beautiful.
I'm gonna drop the mic on that one, Mr. Freeman.